Hey, meteorologist James Wieland with a look at the impact zone here. It's Friday afternoon. This computer is running so slow, so I don't even know if I'm going to make it through this thing. But I wanted to get one of these in before the weekend because we do have some waves out there and we do have some developments in the tropics. And then I'm out of here and I'm going surfing. So let's look at the maps right now. And you can see right now, this right here is subtropical depression number 7 at the moment. And let me stop it right here. There we go. So you see it's getting wrapped up pretty good, but it doesn't look like what a normal tropical system would look like. That's why it's been designated subtropical storm, because it does not have all the tropical characteristics. In fact, it kind of looks like a cold frontal system, because here's a little tail on it right here, and you have all this rain shield up here. This is where the strongest winds are by far, way up here, instead of right by the center. But what's happening is, too, we're getting a little burst of convection right down here, and this could become a true tropical system here as it moves up towards the north, towards Bermuda. Not going to bother us here in South Florida. It could send some swell our way. Not South Florida, though. That'll be Central Florida is when we're going to see that. So it'll move up this way like this towards Bermuda, and then there'll be another front out here that's going to absorb it, and then it'll be gone after that. The north side of this, though, there's enough punch for it to send a little swell. Not huge or anything, but could see waist-high waves, or maybe even stomach plus high waves for Central Florida. I would say with this more east direction here is more of an east swell, so you'd have to go north of Fort Pierce up towards Central and northern Florida to get swell from this one. Another thing that's happening too, we got to look back here. This has the possibility to develop too. It looks like it's getting a little bit more concentrated here, and something to take note, this is going to probably become Faye later today. This could become Gonzalo by the weekend or thereafter the weekend too. Something to watch there. Some of the models too, we're going to go over the specifics here in a minute, but some bring it like this up in through the Bahamas, and then some kind of keep it out to sea out here. Either way, either of those tracks look kind of good for a swell, at least somewhere in Florida, if it's even Central Florida here with the Bahamas blocking us, or maybe a slot swell if it gets close enough. We'll have to see. What else is going on? Lots. There's still even more. Let me move this over, and we have this huge thing way out here. This could become Hannah in the next couple of weeks. It's way out there though, but it is very, very healthy. And this time of year, we don't really look out here for lots of development, but as this treks this way, may get into a more favorable area, and we could see some development from that there going into probably in a week or so. We'll have to keep an eye on that, that's for sure. Now, what gives? Why are we seeing all of this activity all of a sudden? I mean, the tropics have been quite quiet. We've seen hardly anything going on out here. It's kind of looked like this area right here, and now all of a sudden a big flare-up out there. Well, we have the good old MJO, Madden-Julian Oscillation, and look at this. It's becoming in our sector here, in our phase of the diagram here. That's number 1. That's our neck of the woods. And it's coming way out here. So the farther the distance from the center, the stronger this thing is. And each little phase and sector that we're in here indicates where it is in the world. And this is our area in the world right here, number 1. So the forecast does have it in our area, and yes, it's a little bit stronger than it was. Really, it's the strongest it's been all season long. What the MJO it does, just in general, it just gives things an extra oomph, an extra push, a little extra upward lift here to get things going. It doesn't really start anything, it just kind of gives it that extra little nudge to possibly have something develop. It doesn't create anything. Again, it just gives it that extra nudge. So that's why I'm thinking that, well, we may be onto something here with kind of an active mid to late October with the MJO amplified like this way out here, and in our phase of the area here, which is phase 1 here. So we'll have to see about that. And that's why right now, all of this stuff is happening at the moment too. And it gives a little bit more favorable conditions to develop in the next few weeks. We still have to look down here for things. Nothing looking real organized now, but we do have a frontal system by the middle of next week going to be draped along here. We'll have a high out here, and a lot of times when you look down in this direction in that kind of weather pattern, you get some kind of thing developing and then wanting to pull it up in this direction. So still something to look at. It's been on the GFS model for a little while, but it's not there anymore. But that doesn't mean ignore it, because I still think it doesn't matter really what the model is saying. We got to look at what the rest of the weather is saying, and the rest of the weather says that this is definitely a possibility come the end of October with the weather pattern that's going to be happening. Now let's get into it here and see this first. The GFS we'll look at real quick and go through time. So this is what's happening right now. Notice there's a lot of fetch in this direction, a lot of fetch in this direction. Well, that doesn't do us any good. We need fetch in this direction for it to be pushed into Florida. But I think that's going to happen. And again, it's not going to be a huge, let's get this thing going, a huge push of swell, but I do think there'll be something. And then that'll probably be arriving early next week. What we do have here in South Florida is this, you have a high out here. We have this enhanced east-northeast flow with lower pressures in here and higher pressures up here, and you get that funneling in between that we have right on top of South Florida right now. That brings us a little bit of wind chop, maybe need a, if we're lucky, waist high, but something to ride out there. It's going to pick up today, later today. It's already rideable in some spots, and it's going to be better for once the farther south you head, because you see on here the stronger winds are definitely farther south. This will last in through the weekend, probably not a whole lot through the weekend, knee high, maybe more. I think it'll actually, that's Saturday. Let's see what this does. Yeah, kind of abates a little bit by Sunday, so tapering off on Sunday, but we really keep with that onshore flow for quite a while. Now, as we go here into next week, notice it does pick up a little bit on Monday and Tuesday, so this could be a little extra push of east and even east-southeast wind chop here going into the early part of next week as another high moves off the coast. Here's the cold front. It was looking a little bit better for the cold front to make it all the way through now. Notice we hardly even get northeast wind or even north wind. It's all maybe east or southeast, so I don't think that's going to do much for our temperature. It might dry us out just a smidgen. And then all eyes are right here. This would be the next potential storm going directly over Puerto Rico. And then kind of moves north of Hispaniola. Notice how small and compact it is too, so it's not going to be the biggest of storms. I mean, what a difference that's the subtropical one is going to be to this one. I'm trying to rewind it right here. So quite a difference on the size of this one. This one, by the way, so as this moves up and out, that'll be it for us. Again, just sending a slight little swell to central Florida and the Space Coast. Then this really merges with the cold front, like I said, merges with the frontal boundary, and then becomes this gigantic low up in the northeast that's going to send some big old swell to Peniche in Portugal for the next ASP event. So that should be fun. Hopefully the winds will cooperate. At first it doesn't look like it, so we'll see. That starts on Sunday, I think it starts. So that'll be good, because that thing does turn into like a monster up to the north in the North Atlantic, and good stuff pointing at Portugal. Let me show you here if I can drag this thing down. There it is. So that would be a decent storm there for the event. The event's right about here-ish. Peniche, I guess, is right about in here, and you can't get better pointed right at that than that. But look at where it's here, hard onshore wind, so that kind of stinks. So we'll have to see how that all pans out. All right, back to our neck of the woods. we can watch that and drool over that when the time comes. Starting on Sunday, we'll see. All right, so this does develop into something, but the GFS really just kind of steers it straight north after it reaches near Dominican Republic. And what it's seeing is, here's the frontal boundary. So you have, this is all lower pressure in here, and a hurricane, tropical system, anything, it wants to roll into this groove right here. It wants to roll into the lower pressure. When you have high pressure, a storm can't go up and over the high pressure is like a big mountain, and then low pressure is like a little valley. What this wants to do, it wants to roll, think of it like a little bowling ball, wants to roll into the valley and find that weakness the whole time, the lower spot for it to roll on through. And that's what this was showing. Now, the fact that this thing weakens a lot too worries me with this high moving on in, because as if this high quickly moves in, this pulls this up and then leaves it behind here for a little bit, which it doesn't show, but that's also a possibility. See, as this thing blows up to the north. So of course, as that does that, I mean, if this comes true, this would probably send a little slot swell, and then also a little fetch here developing from Hatteras to the storm, and that would send a swell our way too. So this is a good scenario for us because we don't get hit by a hurricane, and we may get a hurricane swell. Now, why are we thinking now the crazy GFS that we may listen to it? Well, because it's got company. It's got other things on its side, namely the European model. And the European really hasn't jumped on anything this season, honestly. Really, it hasn't jumped on anything. But here it is. It's jumping on the fact that it is also showing a storm down into the Caribbean just north of Cuba, right here. And as we go, I'm just going to go to the end of this 180 hour here. And when you get this kind of model consensus, that's how we say, well, now wait a minute, this may not just be some crazy thing one of the models is doing. There may be something to this. And then we start to look at the trends. What are the trends? What are the models doing run from run? Do they continue to show this thing here? Or is it here one time, gone the next, here, gone the next? These are the things that, even though long-range models aren't that accurate, we look at them for consistency, and then, of course, for them agreeing with each other. And this is the last frame here. It has it way low. So the European kind of worries me, because if it gets up in here, well, that's not good for us here in South Florida. We don't want it to hit us. We want it to stay offshore. So something to look at here. And then this is the 17th of October here. So this is still a week out. But a week out, we could be having something to look at here with a little hurricane or tropical storm in the Caribbean. Look at the difference, though, between the GFS and the European. Oops, this thing keeps doing it. So look at that. That's the difference right there. From there to there. I mean, that is a huge difference. GFS has it right there. European has it right there. That's a big spread. So, but they both have it. So something in this vicinity 1 week from now. Something to keep an eye on here as we go and get the last little spark of the tropics. Well, that's it for now. Hopefully this thing recorded. I tried not to make it long, but it kind of dragged on out. But see you in the water. It looks like waves today, and then some wind chop for the next little while, and then all eyes to the tropics. See if we can get one last couple little hurricane swells in here. All right, that's it for now. Peace.